Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Talkin' Music with Gerry. I'm Gerry Powers, the Artistic Director for Daniel's Music Foundation. In the past 2 episodes, we've talked about sound and how we measure the frequency of musical notes in hertz. Humans can hear sounds between 20 and 20,000 hertz. Bigger animals can hear below our hearing range, and smaller animals can hear above our hearing range. We learned that we measure the loudness of sounds in decibels, and how humans hear sounds starting at 0 dB, or 0 decibels. We also talked about protecting our hearing by covering our ears when we are around loud sounds like ambulance sirens, and how we have to be careful about listening to our loud music on our headphones because that can hurt our hearing. We then listened to the string section of the orchestra and we learned about their sounds and their ranges. Then we heard a musical piece with those instruments to see if we could identify them. Today we're going to learn about another section of the orchestra called the Woodwinds section. And then we'll listen to 2 more musical pieces to see if we can identify the new instruments we're learning about. I mentioned to you last time that there's another instrument in the string section of the orchestra that's used, namely the harp. Let's look at this wonderful instrument now.
The harp's origins may be found in the sound of a hunter's plucked bowstring. The oldest documented references to the harp are from 3000 BC in Mesopotamia and Egypt. King David was a harpist. The harp is mentioned in old epic stories. It's even mentioned in the Bible, and harps even appear in Egyptian wall paintings. Many were played in vertical positions and plucked with the fingers of both hands. But Mesopotamia also had horizontal harps. Frame harps, which are mostly confined to Europe, have a body and neck that are set at an angle and are connected by a column, a pillar, or a 4-pillar that braces against the tension of the strings. The double-action pedal harp that was invented in about 1810 is the predecessor for the modern harp that we know. The modern harp that we know has 47 strings and 7 pedals. It has an extremely large range from C1 to A-flat 7, which is almost 7 octaves. The modern harp that we know is the second largest instrument in the orchestra. The harp structure is a set of strings stretched over a frame. The harpist plucks or strums the strings to produce the notes. The sound of the harp is often dreamlike, almost like a fairy tale. But to create this magical sound, there's a lot to keep track of for the musician: 47 strings and 7 pedals. Let's move on to the next section of the orchestra, the woodwinds. The instruments in this family all used to be made of wood, which gives them their name. They are all basically narrow cylinders or pipes with holes, an opening at the bottom end, and a mouthpiece at the top. You play them by blowing air through the mouthpiece and opening or closing the holes with your fingers to change the pitch. Metal caps called keys cover the holes of most woodwind instruments. The mouthpieces for some woodwinds, including the clarinet, oboe, and bassoon, use a thin piece of wood called a reed, which vibrates when you blow across it. The clarinet uses a single reed made of 1 piece of wood, while the oboe and bassoon use a double reed made of 2 pieces joined together. Just as with the stringed instruments, the smaller woodwinds play higher pitches, while the longer and larger instruments play the lower notes. Of all the instruments that make pitched sounds, the flute is the oldest and was originally made from wood, clay, ivory, or hollow reeds like bamboo. The oldest flutes, dating back more than 30 to 40,000 years ago, were found in a part of present-day Germany. Wow, it sure is exciting to know that music has been around for that long. The modern flute was invented by a man named Theobald Boehm. Modern flutes are made of silver, gold, or platinum. The flute is about 2 feet long and weighs a little bit more than 1 pound. The flute player, who is also known as a flautist or a flutist, plays the instrument by holding it sideways with both hands and blowing across a hole in the mouthpiece, kind of like blowing across the top of a bottle. The flute player's fingers open and close the keys, and the pitch changes. The flute can play from C4 to D7, which is a little bit more than 3 octaves. The sound of the flute is airy, graceful, soft, silvery, and wind-like. The oboe was invented in the mid-1700s by 2 French musicians that played for the French court, Jacques Hauteterre and Michel Philidor. The oboe is 25.5 inches long. It's made out of wood usually and weighs about 1.5 pounds. And it has metal keys covering its holes, and the mouthpiece uses a double reed, which vibrates when you blow through it. Here is a picture of a double reed. The vibration of the reed makes the air inside the oboe move and then creates the sound. To play the oboe, you hold it upright, you blow through the double reed, and you use both hands to press down on the keys to open and close the holes and change the pitch. There are usually 2 to 4 oboes in an orchestra, and they produce a very wide range of pitches. The oboe's range is quite large. It plays from B-flat 3 to A6. The sounds an oboe makes can be described as haunting, warm, velvety smooth. The sound of the oboe is very memorable. It's bright, clear, penetrating, keen, and insistent. And that's the reason why the first oboe player in the orchestra gives the A440 note so that the orchestra can tune to its bright sound. Listen to the special A440 that the oboe plays. The next instrument in the woodwind section of the orchestra is the clarinet, which can easily be mistaken for an oboe, except for the mouthpiece. As you can see here, the mouthpiece uses a single reed. Clarinets come in a number of different sizes. The standard B-flat clarinet is just over 2 feet long, and it weighs about 3.7 pounds. Some musical works make the clarinetist play different types of clarinets in the same piece. In the orchestra, there are usually 2 or 4 clarinets. They play melodies and harmonies. Clarinets have a beautiful dark rich sound in the lower notes. The upper part of the clarinet's range is resonant and bright. The clarinet is also played upright, blowing through the reed and using your hands to change the pitches by opening and closing the keys with your fingers. Other words used to describe the sound of a clarinet are rich, mellow, round, and expressive. The range of the clarinet is from B-flat 3 to A6. The bassoon is a very, very long pipe that is doubled in half, which is made of wood, and it has many keys. The bend in this pipe makes it possible for musicians to play it. If the pipe were straight, the bassoon would be about 9 feet long. It weighs about 8 pounds. Just like the oboe, the bassoon uses a double reed, which is fitted into a curved metal mouthpiece. Usually there are 2 to 4 bassoons in an orchestra. The range of the bassoon is B-flat 1 to E-flat 5. Bassoons usually play lower harmonies, but sometimes you will hear their hollow low notes featured in a melody. You play the bassoon by holding it upright and blowing through the double reed. The air travels down the tube, makes a U-turn, and goes up and out the top. Just like the oboe, you use both hands to press on the keys to open and close the holes and change the pitch. Words that describe the bassoon are full, warm, picturesque, slender, and sensitive. Let's have a listen to a piece of music called Sharons Theme, which features the harp, the flute, string quartet, and the clarinet. See if you can tell the difference between those instruments. In this next piece, written by Johann Sebastian Bach, see if you can pick out the oboe and the bassoon. The name of this piece is Bourrée in E minor.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Talkin' Music with Gerry. There's so much more to talk about, so I'll talk to you later.
There's so much more to talk about, so I'll talk to you later. Arrivederci, sayonara. See you later, alligator. I have to say, it's been great, and it's gonna be greater. There's so much more to talk about, so I'll talk